Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. Liverpool 1, Chelsea 1, and let's be honest, it's a better point for Chelsea than it is for Liverpool. There's no way you go into a game thinking, well, one of your biggest rivals is going to end up with 10 men and think that it's like a good thing to come away with not beating them. Just incredibly frustrating as much as anything else, because Liverpool threw everything at it, and it ends up being one of those games where you come across looking a bit churlish when you like complaining about the referee, but Anthony Taylor is just the worst. He's just the worst referee. He is the worst. Yeah, maybe man. No, he's the worst. He's the absolute worst. He let things go. He basically let everything go that was a foul on Sadio Mane, and then fouls for every time we were. It was a bad refereeing performance. It was crap. And look, it was there was something about it. 20 minutes in, and the atmosphere was as good as anything I've been in for certainly for 2 years. But back to the best. Just like you realise what you missed by not being at footy, and then they get the goal. There's an element of fortune or whatever, and now it drops in and it does flatten us, and Liverpool drag themselves back in again, and obviously you end up with that mad melee in the box, you end up with it going to VAR, you end up with the penalty, you end up with all the scuffles and stuff that go around it. Brilliant cool head from Mohamed Salah. He was a threat all game. The players who stood out for me really, and Harvey Elliott again 18 years old, and we were talking pre-match like, you want an indication of how important he is to Liverpool's side, that he's starting that game when Naby Keita's on the bench, Thiago's on the bench, Oxlade-Chamberlain's on the bench, and Harvey's starting. And I thought it was a very brave and actually pretty well vindicated decision to play him. He was a constant threat. He buzzed around, he pressed, and I think obviously we'll never know because of how Chelsea react with the sending off. He's there to upset Jorginho. He's there to stop them getting their passing rhythm together. Now obviously they play 45 minutes with 10 men, so it's a different game as a result of it. But I love the fact that Harvey, his engine was great. The amount of times he won the ball back, he was constantly after it. He was constantly looking to make things happen. Great. Little Sadio Mane, he looks so. Look, he threw a tackle in the first 2 minutes or whatever. Got the cop going. Amazing. Set the tone for it. He looks back. And it's a real shame about Bobby Firmino, because he looked very bright, but that's the beauty of Diogo Jota coming in and was a bit more direct, had a different kind of threat. Of course he does. The thing I think we didn't get right particularly tactically, I wasn't convinced of the Jordan Henderson of the left thing. Now I get it, because you're playing Harvey Elliott, and Harvey Elliott is better suited to go up and link up with Mohamed Salah, etc., and he's obviously done that last week as well. But there's a couple of times early on where he's obviously he's not as fluid or fluent in that position as is on the other side of midfield, and it ends up more sort of pseudo 4-2-3-1ish, and Harvey ends up in a bit of a floating role behind the forwards. I thought we were more dynamic in that way again when Jota came on, because he's a bit more mobile, so he's a bit more licensed to go across the front three and link up and stuff. It's just disappointing. You're peppering the goal. Mendy's making saves, and he's a good keeper. He is a good keeper, and I actually thought the thing that was best about him on the day was his ability to catch. A couple of times where he just took crosses or corners cleanly, and it takes so much pressure off your team. But in terms of the saves, he was making a meal of them, and it just made me wonder, could you capitalise on second balls on there? Could we have just been a bit more alive to that? I don't know. Look, again, ultimately it's going to be a tale of wasted chances for Liverpool, and not in a way where, look, it's Chelsea. They're very good. Let's make no mistakes about that. I think they're as good as us, and it's whether Liverpool's pedigree and experience tries and tells over the course of the season, of course, and that we won't know until we see the full course of the season, but they are very good. They are, and that's why, again, ultimately the 10-men thing as well, it's a very good point for Chelsea. It's a better point for Chelsea, because we could go and get a point at Stamford Bridge, or we could lose at Stamford Bridge, because again you'd be expecting the home side to do the business, and that will feel like points dropped again in that regard. But no, I expect them to be there or thereabouts. They've got great players who've been there and done it, and know how to conduct themselves all the time, wasting all that kind of stuff. I hate it, but it's part and parcel of the game. They knew what they had to do. They knew they had to dig in. It said that's what happens when you play Burnley with good players. Maybe slightly disrespectful, but look, at the back, I think the one final real big note of encouragement. Everyone was talking about Lukaku. Everyone was talking about the Virgil van Dijk battle and the Joel Matip battle and blah, blah, blah. And it was funny because the Sky cameras were clearly circling Van Dijk and then clearly circling Lukaku. You told Virg pre-match, all eyes are on you. And I thought he was exceptional. Thought he was absolutely exceptional. And Joel Matip maybe even better. They handled him, and Lukaku, like, he'll score goals. He always has done in the Premier League. He's a Premier League proven goal scorer. But he didn't look. We made him look like Man United's Lukaku rather than Everton's Lukaku, if that makes sense. And that's good. That bodes very well indeed for the return to fitness of Virgil van Dijk and co. Listen, let me know your thoughts. There's plenty more to discuss. The lads are in the studio, of course. And normally I would do a vlog, but I only really put them out on my YouTube channel when we win, so I'm not going to do it. But we have got a new feature. It's called the Matchday Experience. It's going to be a more in-depth look in and around Anfield, around the big games of this season. So this will be the first one. That's going to be going up on Monday evening on the redmentv.com, streaming exclusively on there, give you a bit more of a taste, a bit more flavour of what it's like to be around Anfield on the games. So yeah, Tom's editing that tomorrow, so that should be up. So make sure you subscribe to the redmentv.com for more. That's my cue to go. Then after me, I'll see you all soon. Ta-ra.